Howdy, Rebels. Welcome back to Rebel Guerrilla News Network. Today we will be discussing the Tusken people and them getting their land back. The Tusken people are the indigenous to Tatooine. They have lived there for generations. They, like the indigenous in many places throughout the universe, have been killed and kicked off their land and had their food sources destroyed. Similar things happened to the indigenous of the Americas. I'll be using what happened to the indigenous of America as a guide for what happened to the Tuskens and why the Tuskens behave the way that they do. Let's learn about what happened to the indigenous of America. In 1492, Columbus discovered the island of Hispaniola, which was what became modern-day Haiti and the Dominican Republic. What he did there was horrific and despicable. The indigenous of Hispaniola were called the Taino people. Estimates of their population before Columbus varies from several hundred thousand to over a million. Columbus made them his slaves and forced them into resource extraction, and if they didn't meet their quotas, they would have their hands cut off. And this lovely gentleman has the District of Columbia named after him. When Columbus raped and pillaged to his heart's content, the population of Taino was approximately 32,000. Now let's focus on what happened in the territory that would become the United States of America. Now what happened in America, Canada, Australia, Argentina, Brazil, Israel, Taiwan, and the Japanese island of Hokkaido is what is known as settler colonialism. Settler colonialism is when foreign invaders come into a place that is inhabited, kicks out through force, and settles into the place that was inhabited by the previous people, aka the indigenous. Sometimes the eradication is total. Sometimes the indigenous are forcibly assimilated into the settler colonial project.
But the indigenous of America had wars with each other and squabbles over territory.
Well, you're right, that is true, but the majority of the tribes had treaties and organizations with each other. And the fact of them fighting together does not justify settler colonialism. If two kids were fighting over a sandbox, that does not justify one big kid coming in and beating all of them unconscious with a baseball bat and claiming the sandbox for themselves.
Okay, so if we settlers give them back their land, then shouldn't it be given to the anthropological group that has the furthest back data claim to the land, which is most likely dead because...
Yeah, you are really good at coming up with bad-faced arguments to support settler colonialism. What should happen is that the settlers leave and the indigenous groups control their land, resources, and politics. Does this mean that all settlers have to leave? No, not exactly. The indigenous can have, or should have, the right to claim as much land as they want, and then they can live together with the settlers, like what happened in Haiti after the Haitian Revolution, or what post-apartheid South Africa became. The indigenous of America were massacred, assimilated, and colonized in this brutal fashion. Just look up the Sand Creek and Wooded Knee Massacre to understand. There was one instance where a group of indigenous converted to Christianity. They were rounded up and condemned to death. They even sang Christian hymns before they were killed. U.S. federal troops were used to kill off the indigenous to pave the way for settlements. The U.S. troops even started a campaign to kill the buffalo, called the Buffalo Wars, to starve out the Indians. Oh, quick aside here. America is so racist that there is a game that the settlers made called Cowboys and Indians. It should really be called U.S. Federal Soldiers and Indigenous People. But imagine if Nazi Germany won World War II and completed their Lebensraum project. And 5 decades later, little Hans and Adolf played a friendly game of Wehrmacht and Slavs, or Gestapo and Jews. Yes. The indigenous used every means of resistance that they could. Violent and non-violent methods were used to resist settler colonialism. They attacked settlers, they attacked troops, they did everything in their power to preserve their way of life. To this day in America, indigenous women get raped and murdered and disappeared at disproportionately high rates. Indigenous people have the highest suicide rates in America and much lower average life expectancy than average Americans. With this context of settler colonialism, let's understand why the Tusken people do what they do. The Tusken people live in a hot, sandy desert planet with twin suns called Tatooine. They lived a harsh existence but adapted to their environment. Water to them is a sacred and precious resource to them, like the Fremen people from Arrakis in the Dune universe. The Tuskens are very defensive of their water. They ride banthas, which look very similar to bison. They harvest and eat black melons, which produce a milky substance. The Tuskens are a nomadic people that live in tribes 20 to 30 in number. They are led either by chiefs or warlords, kind of like the Pashtun people of Afghanistan. Some tribes are peaceful to outside people, but some use violence to kick out settlers. Banthas and Tuskens share a mystical bond. When a Tusken reaches adulthood, they receive a Bantha that has their gender. When Tuskens marry, the Banthas of the Tuskens also mate. When Tuskens turn 15, they reach adulthood, and the males have to slay a crate dragon and obtain the crystal within the dragon, as a rite of passage into adulthood. Kind of like how the Maasai people of Kenya, they have a boy kill a lion with a spear to become a man. Tuskens use Gatterfee sticks in close quarter combat and cycler rifles for long-range conflicts. So, as you can see, the Tuskens are a diverse group of people with their own culture, customs, and way of life. Let's learn about settlements on Tatooine and how the Tuskens adapted. When the oceans of Tatooine dried up, the Tusken people were scattered into many different tribes. These various tribes stayed mostly hidden from outsiders and settlers. Some decided to draw a line in the sand, pun intended, and fight back against their settler colonialists. The 8 decades before the beginning of the Galactic Empire, there was a settlement called Fort Tusken established on the edge of the Badlands of the Jundland Wastes. The Tuskens immediately attacked Fort Tusken repeatedly. The fort was abandoned, and the settlers called the Tusken people the Tusken Raiders. Another place that Tuskens frequently attack is Anchorhead, a small settlement town that's connected to Mos Eisley. So, what have we learned today? Hopefully you learned what settler colonialism is, and what it needs to be done to end it, which is the indigenous people reclaim their land and autonomy back. See you next time. And remember, it is right to join the rebellion. Hello. Thank you for watching the video. This is my second video that I've made under the Rebel Guerrilla News Network title. This video is an improvement from my last one. The last one being the Hop Hop as a Mouse video. Watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it. Support the channel. Watch it, watch it. So, yeah. This little guy here is, Mr. Strawman the Sock Puppet. He's my girlfriend. And, yeah, thank you for watching. The next video should be about, the droids in Star Wars living in an apartheid state, or Jim Crow state, whatever you want to call it. And, yeah, I'll see you in the next one. It's right to join the rebellion.
Did you figure it out yet? What to do with this figurative outlet? I'm running my mouth at heaven. Slept well in a couple of days, trying to figure it out, but I'm stuck in the shapes that I'm handed. Power to the people, they demand it. What kind of power, man, I can't understand it. Was it booming in the Soviet Union? Presuming that it was Lenin that you zoomed in. Was Stalin is a bill? If not, it's an OVF. Common F deserve to get killed. I'm split like Society Soviet. Am I just a liberal if I ain't got the point yet?